Secure IAM policies. Policies for users and roles. In this video, we will look at how to map IAM policies to users and roles. Specifically, we will look at strategies for defining users and roles, and we will look at how to build user-specific policies. IAM is the way to control access to AWS services and resources. You can minimize your risk profile by creating custom policies and applying the principle of least privilege. The picture below shows a risk profile. On the left-hand side, which is the greatest risk, you have general access for users or roles, and that access is built from generic policies. On the right-hand side, you have the least risk, where you apply the principle of least privilege to users or roles, but it requires that you build custom policies. Depending upon your needs, it's up to you to decide where you would like to build your policies based upon your risk profile. Applying the principle of least privilege is more about denying access as opposed to granting access. Always start from a position of no access and then add access as needed or required. By default, disable access to all services except for the services that are needed. And within the services that are needed, only grant the minimum access for any user or role. This diagram shows the hierarchy of user and role authorization. If you recall from the previous section, user authorization is based from groups or individual policies. Role authorization is based upon policies. The key point of this diagram is that policies are the foundation of authorization for both users and roles. Having good, secure policies ensures that you will have a good risk profile for your users and roles. When building an authorization hierarchy, consider the categories of users and roles in your organization. I will use the example of a moderately sized firm. In that firm, it may only have 4 categories: a read-only for monitoring and system verification, a developer for creating, building, and testing applications, an admin role for creating and maintaining infrastructure, and a delete role simply to tear down persistent resources or sensitive resources as necessary. Again, I would recommend that you keep your delete role separate from your admin role to avoid mistakes by an admin user deleting key resources. For each service that's required, create a policy for each user or role. Let's look at S3. Based upon the categories we just described, we will need 4 policies: an S3 read-only policy, S3 developer policy, S3 admin policy, and of course S3 delete policy. Notice that these policies are only for the S3 service. The EC2 service will also require 4 policies. DynamoDB will also require an additional 4 policies, etc., etc. IAM is truly infrastructure as code. When building an authorization hierarchy, always start from your use cases and map those types of users and roles down to specific policies. Just like any other type of code, your use cases will evolve, and that will require that your policies may have to be refactored over time. This is normal, and this is part of the security profile of your organization maturing over time.